It was a Thursday morning, still cold enough for breath to fall against the kitchen window, when Laura leaned over and kissed Daniel's cheek. Her lips lingered just long enough for him to feel the tremor in them. He noticed because he always did. She used to kiss him differently, slow, unhurried, often smiling midway as if the world was haze to love. But this kiss had the weight of distance, the kind you don't measure in miles. "I'll be back Sunday," she said, her voice trembling with what could have been guilt or exhaustion. "Dad's fever hasn't broken yet." Daniel nodded, forcing a soft smile. "Of course. Tell him I hope he feels better soon." Her fingers brushed the side of his face before she grabbed her overnight bag. The faint smell of lavender and coffee followed her out, and then the door closed. Just like that, the house swallowed the silence that came after her footsteps faded. He stood still for a moment, staring at the door as if it would open again. For 3 years, that door had always been a revolving promise. She'd go to work, to yoga, to see her friends, and she'd always come back laughing, humming, sometimes carrying Thai takeout or some wild idea about rearranging the living room. But lately, she came back quieter, different, and now she was gone again, to care for her father, who lived in a town 3 hours away. Daniel didn't doubt her at first. He trusted Laura, perhaps too much. She was a nice, empathetic to a fault, always helping, always giving. But lately, that empathy seemed to have gone missing in their marriage. It was as if she was saving all her kindness for someone else. Still, Daniel brushed it off. He'd been overthinking everything since he lost his job 6 months ago. He'd been trying to rebuild, freelancing, staying home too much. Maybe she needed space. Maybe she was tired. Maybe everything was fine. He tried to convince himself of that while making coffee. He poured 2 mugs out of habit before realizing she wasn't there. One sat untouched, steam curling up like a ghost of routine. He turned on the radio to fill the emptiness. The house felt too big, too still. Even the ticking clock seemed louder now. Around noon, he texted her, "How's your dad doing?" She didn't reply for an hour, then came a simple, "Still weak. I'm helping Mom with meds. Love you." 3 words, "Love you." They should have comforted him, but something about them felt practiced, like a copy-paste sentiment. No emoji, no warmth. That evening, he microwaved leftover pasta, ate half of it, and opened his laptop. He couldn't focus. He scrolled through photos instead, trips to the lake, birthdays, the wedding in the backyard. She'd looked radiant that day, in the simple white dress she'd chosen herself. Barefoot, laughing, promising forever. He closed the laptop and went to bed early. Sleep came slowly, restless and uneasy. Around midnight, he woke up to his phone lighting up. A text from Laura. "Sorry, busy with Dad's meds. Call you tomorrow." Something about the timing felt off. He stared at the message, thumb hovering, before setting the phone down. He told himself it didn't mean anything. But the next morning, as he brewed coffee, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message meant for someone else. "Can't wait to see you tonight at the bungalow. Same place, 8. Daniel froze. For a full minute, his body went completely still, coffee dripping down the counter. His breath caught in his throat. His mind scrambled. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe it wasn't what it sounded like. Maybe. Then another text followed. "I'll bring the wine this time. And wear the dress you like." No mistake now. The words weren't meant for him. His stomach dropped as if the floor had disappeared beneath him. His hands trembled as he typed. "Laura, who is this for?" The typing bubble appeared, then disappeared, appeared again. Finally, her reply came. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That was for a friend. We're planning a surprise dinner for Dad at the bungalow near the lake." A weak lie. Too quick, too specific. His pulse pounded in his ears. He didn't reply. He couldn't. His mind began to replay every small red flag. The late shift that didn't match his schedule, the silences between calls, the way she hid her phone lately, face down on the table. At 2 p.m., he packed a small duffel bag. No plan, just instinct. The lake bungalow she mentioned was only an hour from their house. It was where they'd spent their honeymoon, and she knew he loved that place. A surprise dinner that made no sense. By 3 p.m., he was driving down the highway, when slapping against the car, thoughts unraveling in knots. He tried to breathe, to rationalize, to find some version of the story that didn't end in betrayal. But with every mile, hope crumbled. By the time he reached the outskirts of the Lake District, the sun was beginning to dip, bleeding orange into the horizon. Bungalow 23 stood at the end of a date road, surrounded by tall pines. Its porch light flickered on as dust settled. Daniel parked a few yards away and turned off the engine. His heart hammered against his ribs. He could see a shadow move past the window. 2 silhouettes. One of them was unmistakably Laura's. He clenched the steering wheel, breathing through his teeth. His hands were shaking, not with rage but disbelief. His body felt foreign, detached. The man inside, broad shoulders, taller than Daniel, laughed at something she said. Laura's head tilted back in that familiar way she used to laugh when they were happy. That image hit him harder than any betrayal could. He reached for his phone, staring at her name. He called once. It rang, then stopped. He called again. No answer. Then again. Again. 39 calls. Not one picked up. At 10:47 p.m., she finally texted, "Please stop calling. I'll explain later." Daniel sat in his car with the engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles went white. The air outside had turned cold and wet, the smell of pine and rain drifting through the half-open window. His phone screen glowed in the dark, still showing her last message. "Please stop calling. I'll explain later." Explain what? He stared at those words until they blurred. The house, no, bungalow, stood 30 meters ahead, framed by whispering trees. Inside, warm light spilled through the curtains, golden and soft. It could have been any cozy scene from a movie, except for the wrongness in it. He saw a silhouette again. Laura's familiar posture, the tilt of her head as she pawed something. One, maybe, then another figure stepped closer to her. A man, taller, confident. The shadow of his hand brushed her arm. Daniel felt his throat close up. He'd seen enough movies to know what followed that kind of body language, yet part of him clung to denial like a man clinging to the edge of a cliff. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe it really was a surprise dinner. Maybe he was about to humiliate himself by breaking in like some jealous lunatic. Then Laura laughed. A quiet, intimate laugh that didn't belong to him anymore. The sound sliced through him. Daniel's hand went to the door handle before his mind could stop him. He got out, his shoes crunching against the gravel. The bungalow's porch light flickered with insects circling it, and for a second he could almost smell the wood polish they'd used there on their honeymoon years ago. He reached the porch and froze. Through the window, he saw them more clearly now. Laura in a pale cardigan, her hair loosed the way he always loved, and the man sitting close beside her, his hand resting casually on her thigh. They were laughing softly over a half-empty bottle of wine. Daniel's body went cold. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was something emptier, heavier. Betrayal doesn't always explode. Sometimes it just drains you, drop by drop. He pulled his phone out again. He hit record. His breath was shaky, visible in the cold air. He zoomed in through the window. The evidence he never wanted to exist appeared in glowing pixels. The woman he married leaning in, kissing someone else. A soft, broken sound escaped him. It wasn't even a word. Just disbelief turned to ache. The man's face became visible as they turned. Daniel blinked hard, unsure if what he was seeing was real. It was Nathan. Nathan Hale, his best friend since college. The man who'd stood beside him at his wedding, who'd toasted to eternal loyalty and love. The one he'd called brother for nearly 2 decades. His stomach twisted violently. He stumbled back from the window, every heartbeat pounding like thunder in his ears. His mind replayed moments that suddenly made sense. The way Nathan had dropped by the house when Daniel was away job hunting, the subtle way Laura's eyes softened when Nathan's name came up, her sudden insistence that Nathan and his new consulting work kept him busy out of town. It wasn't random. It was rehearsed, hidden in plain sight. Daniel backed away into the shadows near the trees. He didn't want to confront them. Not yet. Not like this. He needed proof. He needed composure. His phone buzzed again. A text. "Laura, we'll talk tomorrow. Please trust me." His thumb hovered over the reply button. Then another text came through, from Nathan. Nathan, hey, man, hope you're okay. Haven't heard from you. Let's catch up soon. It was time-stamped just now. A lie typed in real time while Nathan's hands were probably still on Laura's body. Daniel wanted to throw the phone into the forest. Instead, he took a photo of the bungalow from where he stood. The open curtains, the silhouettes, the faint reflection of his own broken outline in the glass. Rain began to fall lightly, the smell of wet pine mixed with smoke from their fireplace. For a moment, Daniel imagined walking up to that door, kicking it open, and watching the shock drain the color from their faces. He imagined silence, then shouting, then maybe tears. But another part of him whispered, "Don't let them see you break." He turned away. He drove until the rain turned to mist and his eyes burned from not blinking. He didn't even remember reaching home. The clock read 1:12 a.m. The house was too quiet. He sat on the edge of their bed, staring at the half of it she used to sleep on. Her pillow still carried her scent. His reflection in the dark mirror looked hollow, eyes sunken, jaw clenched, skin pale. He opened his laptop and transferred the videos, the photos. They looked surreal, almost staged. Two people in love, framed by warm light. Only this time, he was the one outside the story. At 2:45 a.m., his phone rang. Her name lit up the screen. He let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. She called 39 times that night. When he finally answered on the 40th, her voice was trembling. "Daniel, please, you don't understand. It wasn't what it looked like." He laughed bitterly. "Then tell me what it was. Laura, tell me why Nathan's hand was on your thigh." Silence. Just her shaky breathing. "You followed me," she finally whispered, more shocked than guilty. "Is that the part that bothers you?" His tone cracked under the weight of exhaustion. "Not the cheating, but the fact that I saw it." "Daniel, please, I can explain everything. I didn't want to hurt you." He pressed his hand over his mouth, shaking his head. "You already did." There was a sound behind her, a man's voice, muffled. Nathan's. Daniel froze. Isn't he? "Please don't do this over the phone." "I'm not doing anything. Laura, you did." He hung up. For the rest of the night, he sat by the window, watching the first pale light of dawn creep through the curtains. The man she claimed to love was gone. The woman he thought he knew was someone else. And the only thing left inside him was a question that wouldn't stop echoing. Why? Morning came heavy, gray, and suffocating. The rain hadn't stopped. It drummed against the roof in uneven patterns, as if the sky itself was restless. Daniel hadn't slept at all. His eyes burned, his head ached, and every sound in the house felt amplified. The hum of the refrigerator, the creak of floorboards, the hollow tick of the wall clock counting down a marriage that no longer existed. Laura's side of the bed was untouched. Her glass of water still sat on the nightstand, half full, as if she might return any moment. He hated that part of him still wanted her to. By 8 a.m., he'd already replayed the video 10 times. Each time, it hurt differently. The first time, it was disbelief. The third, anger. By the 10th, just numbness. Betrayal has layers, denial, rage, sorrow, until finally there's quiet. And in that quiet sits the cruelest part, clarity. He needed to hear her say it. Not deny it, not excuse it. Say it. At 9:13 a.m., his phone buzzed again. Laura. He stared at her name for a long moment before answering. Daniel. Her voice came small, almost pleading. "Can I come home? Please. Just for an hour. We need to talk." He didn't answer right away. "You're already 3 hours away, right? With your sick father." There was silence on the other end. He could almost hear her swallow before she whispered, "I'm sorry." That word, sorry, felt like a knife, dull and slow. "Sorry for lying," he said flatly, "or sorry you got caught." She didn't answer. The silence between them thickened, like static. Then she said, "Please, Daniel, I'm driving. I'll be there soon." The call ended before he could respond. He stood there for a minute, staring out the window as rain misted the glass. The driveway felt like a stage waiting for an inevitable act. He could almost see it already. Her car pulling up, her eyes red, her voice trembling, words rehearsed. But nothing she could say would change the image burned into his mind. When she finally arrived, the clock showed 10:04 a.m. Her white Honda rolled to a stop beside the mailbox. She sat in the car for a long time, head bowed, hands gripping the steering wheel. Then she stepped out. Her face was pale, makeup washed away by rain and tears. She looked smaller somehow, fragile, as if the lie had drained her spirit too. Daniel opened the door before she could knock. They stood facing each other in silence. The sound of the rain filled the space between them. For a moment, neither moved. Then she whispered, "Can I come in?" He nodded stiffly. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of coffee and silence. She took off her wet coat and placed it over the chair, eyes darting around the room as if she no longer recognized it. Or maybe she was remembering all the times they'd been happy here, the meals, the laughter, the quiet nights. Every memory now stood between them like a ghost. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Talk." She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she began softly. "Nathan and I, it started after your layoff. You were so distant, so angry all the time, and I didn't know how to reach you." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You reached him instead." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm not excusing it. I hated myself every time. But Nathan he was there when everything fell apart. You shut me out." His voice rose, sharp and shaking. "You think losing my job gave you permission to betray me?" "No," she cried. "It wasn't like that. I didn't plan it. It just happened once. Then I swore it would never happen again." He laughed bitterly. "You were with him last night, Laura." Her face twisted in shame. I know, and I can't take it back. But it wasn't love. I swear it wasn't. I was lost." Daniel turned away, pressing his hands to his face. "You said you loved me." "I still do," she said quickly. "You don't stop loving someone because you make a mistake." He looked at her then, eyes hollow. "You don't make mistakes for 3 months straight. You make choices." She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. "I don't know why I did it," she cried. "I thought I'd lost you already. Nathan made me feel seen again. It was wrong, but I didn't know how to stop." He stared at her, searching for something honest in the wreckage of her words. "You could have told me, Laura. You could have said you were unhappy. You could have fought for us. Instead, you buried us." She wiped her face, trembling. "I didn't want to hurt you." He almost laughed at that. "You burned everything we built, and you say you didn't want to hurt me." Her lip quivered. "Please, Daniel, please don't leave me." He looked at her long and hard. There was a time those words would have melted him, but now they only echoed hollowly. "Leave you?" he said quietly. "You already left. You just forgot to walk out the door." The silence that followed was devastating. She looked at him like she didn't know who he was anymore. Maybe she didn't. Maybe neither of them did. He finally said, "I saw Nathan's message this morning. He lied to me too. Told me he missed me, wanted to catch up." Her breath hitched. "He didn't know you saw us." "I don't care what he knew. He's dead to me." She took a shaky step forward. Can I at least explain what last night was?" He stared at her. "I think you already did." She shook her head, desperate. "No, listen to me. Nathan's been saying he's leaving his wife for me. But I told him I wasn't sure anymore. That I wanted to fix things with you. That's why we met at the bungalow. I wanted to end it." He froze. "You kissed him to end it." Tears streamed down her face. "I don't know why I did that. I was scared. I thought maybe if I pretended it was fine, I could get out clean. I know how that sounds, but it's the truth." Daniel's chest tightened painfully. He wanted to believe her, but every image, every word from last night screamed otherwise. "You could have told me weeks ago," he said. "You didn't." She reached for him, hands trembling. "Please, Daniel, don't let this be the end of us. We can go to counseling. We can—" He stepped back. "No. You had a choice between me and your lies, and you made it. Her voice cracked. Then what do you want me to do? He looked at her one last time, 1,000 memories flashing through his mind. The first time he saw her at the coffee shop, the wedding vows under a fading sunset, her laugh at once made every bad day bearable. And then, with quiet finality, he said, "I want you to leave." Laura's shoulders caved in. She nodded slowly, like someone whose body couldn't bear the weight of her own choices anymore. She picked up her coat, turned toward the door, then paused. "I'll regret this for the rest of my life," she whispered. "Good," he said without looking at her. "Maybe then it'll mean something." The door closed softly behind her. The sound echoed through the house like a gunshot. The moment the door shut, Daniel felt something inside him collapse. Not loudly, not violently, but like a quiet implosion that left him hollow. He stood in the same spot, staring at the door she had walked through, half expecting it to open again, half praying it wouldn't. The silence afterward wasn't peaceful. It was jagged. Every second stretched into something unbearable. The clock ticked in sharp, uneven beats, and the rain outside softened to a misty drizzle, wrapping the house in a melancholy that felt almost alive. He ran his hands through his hair and exhaled, long and trembling. His body felt detached, moving, breathing, existing, but his mind was lost in fragments. Her words kept replaying. "It wasn't love. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I'd lost you already." Each one stabbed deeper than the next. He wandered to the living room and sat on the couch. The same couch where she used to curl up with him on Friday nights. He could still picture her there, barefoot, laughing, tangled in a blanket, teasing him for choosing boring movies. How could those same hands that once traced his scars with tenderness now belong to someone else? How does love turn into betrayal so quietly that you don't hear it dying? The kettle whistled in the kitchen. He hadn't realized he'd set it on. He poured tea, though he didn't taste it. He just needed to do something, anything, to feel control over something small in a world suddenly spinning off its axis. His phone buzzed. One new message from Nathan Hale. Daniel's chest tightened. He didn't want to look, but his thumb betrayed him. "Daniel, please don't make things worse than they already are. Laura's hurting. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I never meant for it to go this far." He stared at the message, pulse hammering in his ears. The audacity of it, the calm tone, as if betrayal could be softened by polite phrasing. He typed back, fingers trembling. "You slept with my wife. How much farther could it possibly have gone?" No reply. Then, a minute later, another message came through. "I'm not proud of it, man, but you should know she came to me because she was breaking. She said you'd stop seeing her." Daniel let out a low, bitter laugh. Stopped seeing her. He'd seen her every day. He just hadn't known she was already looking past him. He dropped the phone onto the table and leaned back, eyes burning. He didn't cry. He couldn't. The grief was too heavy for tears. It sat inside him like stone. By noon, the rain stopped. The clouds parted just enough for sunlight to cut through the living room window, landing on a framed photo by the mantel. Their wedding day, Laura in her white dress, Daniel in his navy suit, Nathan standing beside him, grinning like a brother. He walked over, picked up the frame, and stared at it, his reflection layered over the image, distorting their smiles. Then, without hesitation, he threw it. The glass shattered against the wall, scattering like his trust. The sound startled him. He stood breathing hard, hands trembling, shards glittering at his feet. Then he sat down again, exhausted, broken, empty. It wasn't until dusk that he moved. He cleaned up the glass slowly, deliberately, one piece at a time. Maybe it was symbolic, trying to fix something beyond repair. Maybe he just needed to keep his hands busy before his thoughts devoured him. When night came, he poured himself a drink. Whiskey, neat, though he wasn't much of a drinker. The amber liquid burned his throat, but the warmth dulled the ache, if only for a moment. His phone buzzed again. A call this time. Laura. He hesitated, staring at her name glowing on the screen. His heart still responded before his mind could shut it down. He let it ring once, twice, then answered. Daniel. Her voice was soft, tentative. He didn't reply. Are you okay? Define okay, he said quietly. She sniffled. I just wanted to say I'm sorry again. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't know how to live with what I've done." He rubbed his eyes. "You'll figure it out. You always do." "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. He closed his eyes. "Laura, you already did." Silence stretched again. Then she said something that caught him off guard. "Please don't hate me." He let out a bitter sigh. "I don't hate you. I wish I did. It'd be easier." Her breath hitched on the other end. "Then what do you feel?" He thought about it for a long moment before answering. "Nothing. And that's worse." When he hung up, it felt like cutting the last string of something that had been holding him together. Hours later, as he was about to turn off the lights, his phone buzzed again. Another message, not from Laura, not from Nathan. An unknown number. "You don't know me, but you deserve to know the truth about Laura and Nathan. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., at the cafe near Ridgeview Park. Don't tell anyone." Daniel frowned. His mind reeled. Who could it be? Nathan's wife? Someone else caught in the fallout? He typed back, "Who is this?" No response. The message sat there, pulsing with possibility. A new layer of unease settled in his gut. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the faint hum of the rain starting again outside. The world around him blurred, but his mind stayed sharp with questions. Maybe the betrayal wasn't finished revealing itself. Maybe what he saw at Bungalow 23 wasn't the whole story. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't the only one they'd lied to. The morning light was pale and thin when Daniel pulled into the small parking lot across from Ridgeview Park Cafe. The world still smelled like rain, that clean metallic scent clinging to the air. The cafe was half full, the usual crowd of quiet regulars, old men reading newspapers, a mother juggling 2 kids, and the occasional couple lost in their own small world of laughter and whispers. He sat in his car for a minute, staring at the building. The message from the unknown number replayed in his mind like an unfinished sentence. You deserve to know the truth about Laura and Nathan. He didn't know what truth was left to uncover. He had seen it with his own eyes, the kiss, the touch, the betrayal. What more could possibly remain? Yet curiosity burned through his exhaustion. Sometimes, even when your heart is shattered, your mind keeps chasing the final missing piece, as if closure could sew the cracks back together. At exactly 10:03 a.m., he stepped inside. The cafe bell chimed softly. Warmth and the smell of coffee wrapped around him. He scanned the room. No one looked particularly suspicious. Then, from the far corner near the window, a woman raised a hand. She was in her late 30s, wearing a beige coat and a black scarf. Her eyes, gray, tired, met his with quiet understanding. Daniel hesitated, then walked over. "Daniel?" she asked, her voice steady but soft. "Yes, you're the one who texted." She nodded. "My name is Elena Hale." The name hit him like a jolt of cold electricity. Nathan's wife. She gave a sad, almost bitter smile. Soon to be ex-wife, I guess. Daniel sat slowly. His chest tightened as he realized she was trembling slightly. Her hands wrapped around her coffee cup, like it was the only thing keeping her steady. "I'm sorry," he began carefully, "if you're here to defend him." She shook her head sharply. "I'm not. I'm here because I found something last night. Something you should see." From her bag, she pulled out a phone, older model, cracked screen, and slid it across the table. "It's Nathan's old phone. He left it in the glove compartment of his car. I found it 2 days ago when I went to get some of my things." Daniel frowned. "You went through it." "I didn't plan to," she said quietly. "But then, curiosity becomes survival, doesn't it? You need to know what's been happening behind your back." He said nothing. Elena unlocked the phone. There are messages between him and Laura. Not just about the affair. There's more. She handed it to him. The screen showed a thread of messages. Daniel scrolled, each word cutting deeper. "Nathan, he still doesn't suspect anything. We'll get what we came for soon. Laura, are you sure about this? I can't keep lying to him much longer. Nathan, just a little longer. Once the Bungalow deal closes, we'll both be set." Daniel's brows furrowed. Bungalow deal? He kept scrolling. Laura, He's starting to ask questions about the savings account. Nathan, then transfer the funds before he looks. Say your dad needed medical treatment. He'll believe you. Daniel's stomach turned. Elena looked away, shame flickering in her eyes. They weren't just cheating, Daniel. They were stealing from you. The cafe noise around him seemed to fade, replaced by the deafening rush of his heartbeat. He stared at her. What do you mean? She took a shaky breath. Nathan convinced Laura to help him fund a real estate project, something about renovating Lake Bungalows. He told her he'd double the money in a few months, and they could start over somewhere new. She transferred $50,000 from your joint savings account to his business account 6 weeks ago. Daniel felt his pulse hammer in his temples. That's impossible. I checked the records myself, Elena said. Nathan's company doesn't exist. It's just a shell. He's done this before. Fake ventures, false investors. He charms people, gets them to trust him, then disappears. He leaned back, disbelief hardening into fury. So he used her? He used everyone, Elena said bitterly. But Laura, she was blinded. I think she genuinely believed they'd build a life together once the money came through. Daniel stared at the phone again. Then why would she still try and come back to me? Elena met his eyes. Because he already started ghosting her. That's what Nathan does. He destroys, then walks away before the pieces fall. For a long time, Daniel couldn't speak. The betrayal, already unbearable, had mutated into something darker. It wasn't just emotional. It was deliberate, calculated. He clenched his jaw. Where is he now? Elena hesitated. I don't know. He withdrew everything from his business account yesterday morning. $48,000. Then he sent me divorce papers and vanished. Daniel's vision tunneled. The world blurred around him. He stood abruptly, the chair scraping the floor. He's not getting away with this. Elena grabbed his wrist. Daniel, wait. Don't do anything stupid. I came to you because I thought you'd want justice, not revenge. He looked down at her hand. Sometimes they're the same thing. Her grip tightened. Listen to me. I know you're angry, but if you confront him alone, you'll only make it worse. Nathan's clever, manipulative. You need proof that he used her, that he scammed both of you. Daniel exhaled shakily, sitting back down. So what do you suggest? Elena hesitated. I have a friend in the financial crimes unit. If we can get one more piece of evidence, emails, transactions, something linking him directly, we can build a case. But we'll need Laura's help. His throat tightened at her name. You think she'll talk to us after what happened? She has no choice, Elena said quietly. Nathan's not just a liar. He's dangerous when cornered. If she's still in contact with him, she could be in trouble. Daniel stared at her, uncertain whether to believe it, or whether he even cared what happened to Laura anymore. But something in Elena's tone, a quiet urgency, told him this wasn't just about heartbreak now. It was about survival. He nodded slowly. All right, let's talk to her. Elena looked both relieved and nervous. I already texted her from an unknown number this morning. Told her I had something she'd want to see. She agreed to meet tonight at 7 at Bungalow 23. Daniel froze. The name hit him like a punch to the gut. You told her to meet there? She nodded. It's the only place she thinks is safe. The only place Nathan never knew I found out about. Daniel swallowed hard, unease twisting in his chest. Then I guess that's where this ends. Elena's gaze was steady but fearful. Let's just hope it doesn't end badly. Outside, rain began again, soft, almost rhythmic, like the world was bracing for what was coming. The road to Bungalow 23 was the same one Daniel had driven a week earlier, but everything about it felt different this time. The trees, once green and peaceful, now seemed like silent witnesses, dark silhouettes hiding secrets behind their branches. The air carried that damp chill that comes before a storm, thick enough to taste. He gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. The wipers moved rhythmically, slicing through the drizzle, but his thoughts were louder than the rain. Laura, Nathan, the bungalow, the money, the lies. Every turn of the road brought back the memory of her laugh her scent, the way she had looked at him just before leaving to care for her father. Now he saw those moments differently, like scenes in a movie that only made sense after the ending had been revealed. Elena sat beside him, her gaze fixed out the window. She hadn't said a word since they left the cafe. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, just heavy, like they were both saving their strength for what lay ahead. Finally, she spoke. "You still love her, don't you?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "I don't know what I feel anymore." "That's not true." He looked at her briefly. "What do you mean?" Elena sighed softly. "You wouldn't be here if you didn't still care. Anger doesn't drive someone to meet their betrayer. Pain does, and pain only comes from love." He turned back to the road. "Then I wish I could stop loving her." The sound of the rain grew louder, filling the car. They said nothing more until the headlights caught the sign, Ridgeview Lake Villas, private property. Bungalow 23 stood near the end of the gravel path, partially hidden behind tall hedges. Its porch light glowed dimly through the mist. Daniel slowed the car and parked a short distance away, killing the engine. For a moment, neither moved. The only sounds were rain and the faint ticking of the cooling engine. Elena took out her phone and checked the time. 6:42. She said she'd be here at 7. Daniel's eyes remained on the bungalow. "We wait." The minutes crawled by. The rain thickened, hammering the windshield. Somewhere far away, thunder rolled like an approaching train. At 6:57, headlights appeared in the distance. A small silver sedan. Daniel's heart skipped. Laura. He recognized the car instantly, the same one she'd driven the day she left. It pulled up to the bungalow, stopping right outside. The headlights cut through the rain, and for a second, he saw her step out, umbrella in hand, her figure slightly trembling. He felt something raw and sharp twist inside him. Elena's voice broke the silence. "Remember what we agreed. We confront her calmly. No shouting, no threats. Just get her to talk." He nodded, though his pulse was pounding. "You think she'll tell the truth?" Elena gave a faint, sad smile. They always do when the lies start to collapse. They got out and approached slowly. The sound of their footsteps was swallowed by the rain. Laura turned at the sound, startled, her face pale when she saw him. "Daniel." Her voice cracked on his name. She lowered the umbrella slightly, her eyes darting between him and Elena. "What are you doing here?" He didn't answer right away. He just looked at her, really looked. The exhaustion in her eyes, the guilt that clung to every word she didn't say. Finally, he said quietly, "You tell me." Elena stepped forward, her tone controlled. "Laura, I'm Elena Hale, Nathan's wife." Laura froze. "Wife?" "Yes," Elena said. "And I think it's time we stop pretending we don't know what's going on." Laura's lips parted, her umbrella trembling slightly in her hands. I don't know what you're talking about." Daniel took a step closer, rain soaking his hair. "No more lies. Laura, we know about the transfers, the messages, the bungalow scheme, everything." She blinked rapidly, backing toward the door. "Daniel, please, I can explain." "Then explain," he cut in, voice rising for the first time. "Explain how you emptied our savings and gave it to the man you were sleeping with." Her lip quivered, her eyes filling with tears. "It wasn't like that," he said. "He promised." Elena's voice sliced through. "He promised you a future? He promised me that too. And now he's gone, with your money and mine." The words hit Laura like a slap. She shook her head violently. "No, he wouldn't. He said he'd be here tonight." Daniel frowned. "He told you to come here." Laura nodded, panic rising in her face. "Yes." He said he had a surprise, that he'd fix everything. Elena exchanged a sharp glance with Daniel. "His not coming, Laura. His already gone." For a second, Laura seemed to stop breathing. The color drained from her face. No, you're lying. He loves me. He said we'd leave tonight. Together." Her voice cracked on the last word, breaking into sobs. She sank against the wall, hands shaking. "Oh my God, what have I done?" Daniel looked at her, his anger clashing with something softer, something like pity. He wanted to hate her, to scream until she shattered under the weight of what she'd done. But seeing her collapse like that, broken and lost, he realized there was nothing left to destroy. She had already destroyed herself. Elena knelt down beside her, voice gentler now. "Laura, do you still have your phone? The message is from Nathan." Laura nodded weakly, fumbling through her bag. He said to delete everything after tonight. Elena took the phone carefully. "Good. This might be the proof we need." Suddenly, a faint light flickered from inside the bungalow. Daniel turned sharply. "Did you see that?" Elena frowned. "I thought this place was empty." Laura's face twisted in confusion. "Nathan said he'd left the keys for me under the mat, but I didn't." Another light, then movement, a shadow crossing the window. Daniel's instincts kicked in. He motioned for them to stay back and stepped toward the porch. The rain had turned into a downpour, pounding on the wooden steps as he climbed. He reached the door and hesitated. The faint creak of floorboards echoed from inside. "Hello," he called. No answer. He glanced back at Elena and Laura. "Stay there." Then, slowly, he pushed the door open. The hinges groaned. The room inside was dim, the air thick with dust and something metallic, like wet rust or blood. The furniture was scattered, drawers half open. A faint buzzing came from a broken light fixture overhead. And then he saw it. On the table in the center of the room lay an envelope, his name scrawled across it in Nathan's handwriting. He reached for it cautiously, every instinct on edge. Behind him, Elena stepped in, eyes scanning the shadows. "What is it?" Daniel opened the envelope. Inside were two things, a folded letter and a small flash drive. The letter read, "Daniel, if you're reading this, it means I've already left. Don't bother looking for me. What I took wasn't yours to begin with. Consider this a lesson in trust. You should thank Laura for everything. Without her, none of this would have been possible. Enjoy what's left of your perfect life." And Daniel's hand trembled. His throat burned. Elena took the flash drive. "We'll see what's on this." But before she could pocket it, the front door slammed shut. All three froze. Footsteps. From the hallway. Laura gasped, clutching Daniel's arm. And then a voice, calm, familiar, chillingly amused, drifted through the dark. "Going through other people's mail. Daniel? That's not very polite." Daniel turned toward the sound. Nathan stood at the end of the hallway, half lit by the flickering bulb, a gun in his hand and a smirk that could freeze blood. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The only sound was the rain beating on the roof and the faint hum of the broken light flickering above them. Nathan's shadow stretched across the warped wooden floor like something alive, creeping closer with each step he took toward them. He looked exactly as Daniel remembered. Smooth smile, sharp eyes, but now there was something else beneath the surface, a coldness that made every movement deliberate, predatory. Laura let out a strangled whisper. "Nathan, what are you doing?" He chuckled softly, spinning the gun in his hand with casual grace. "What does it look like I'm doing, sweetheart? Making sure no one ruins my retirement plans." Daniel's fists clenched. "So this was all just a scam to you. The affair, the lies, everything." Nathan tilted his head slightly. "Don't take it personally. Dan, you were just a quiet husband with too much faith and love, and not enough sense to look at the bank statements." Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "You're not getting away with this. I've already told the police." Nathan's eyes snapped to her, the smirk vanishing. "Careful, Elena. You were always the moral one, weren't you? The one who thought she could fix me." "You can't fix something that was never real," she said quietly. For a brief second, Nathan's jaw tightened, then relaxed again. "Touché." He turned his attention back to Daniel, raising the gun slightly, not aiming, just asserting control. "Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to hand me that flash drive, and everyone walks out of here alive." Daniel's pulse thudded in his ears. He met Nathan's gaze without flinching. "You think I'm just going to give it to you?" Nathan smiled faintly. "I think you're not stupid enough to die for a piece of plastic." Laura's voice broke in suddenly, trembling. "Nathan, please, don't do this. You said we'd leave together." Nathan's expression darkened, and his tone turned venomous. "Oh, for God's sake, Laura, stop. Do you still not get it? There was never a we. You were just useful. A means to an end. The money, the access, everything else was just pleasant distraction." Her breath hitched like she'd been slapped. "You're lying." But he wasn't. Everyone could see it. Daniel's anger boiled up, cutting through his fear. "You used her. You stole from me, and you think you can just disappear." Nathan raised a gun higher now, his smile turning razor-thin. "I already have. You're just late to the funeral." Elena shifted slightly to the side, eyes flicking toward the table. Daniel realized what she was trying to do. She was inching closer to her bag, where her phone was hidden. Nathan noticed the movement instantly. "Don't!" She froze. The rain outside grew louder, thunder rumbling close. The flickering light above them buzzed violently. And then another sound, faint, distant, the crunch of gravel outside. Nathan's eyes darted toward the window. Who else is here? No one answered. He moved toward the curtain, gun still raised. Daniel felt the shift. This was his only chance. He lunged. The struggle was instant, brutal. The gun went off, deafening in the small room, shattering glass and silence in one blow. Laura screamed. Elena ducked behind the table. Daniel wrestled with Nathan, the two crashing into the wall, knocking over a chair. Nathan's elbow connected with Daniel's ribs, but Daniel didn't stop. Rage fueled him. Every betrayal, every sleepless night, every memory of Laura's lies, it all exploded in that moment. The gun skittered across the floor. Elena dove for it. Nathan shoved Daniel away and went after her. She grabbed it first, pointing it straight at him, hands trembling. "Stop," she shouted. "It's over, Nathan." He froze, eyes narrowing. "You don't have the nerve." Elena's finger hovered over the trigger. For a second, Daniel thought she might actually do it. Then headlights flashed through the window, two beams cutting through the rain. Nathan turned sharply toward them, confusion flashing across his face. A voice echoed from outside. "Police, drop your weapon." Elena's friend in the financial crimes unit. She must have sent their location before they left. Nathan cursed under his breath. "You called them." Elena's voice was shaking now but firm. "I told you, I wasn't going to let you ruin another life." He stepped toward her anyway. "You won't shoot me, Elena. You never could." She hesitated, just a fraction of a second. But it was enough. Nathan lunged again, grabbing her wrist, twisting it painfully. The gun fell to the floor. Daniel moved before thinking, slamming into Nathan's side and tackling him hard. They went down together, crashing into the table. The envelope, the flash drive, the letter, all scattered. The front door burst open. Flashlights, shouts, "Police, don't move." Nathan froze. The officers swarmed in, pinning him to the ground before he could react. The storm outside reached its peak as they dragged him up, hands cuffed behind his back. His smirk returned, faint but chilling. He leaned toward Daniel, voice low. "You think this ends with me in handcuffs? You have no idea how deep it goes." Then he was gone, pulled into the rain, swallowed by flashing lights and thunder. For a long moment, no one spoke. Laura sat against the wall, face buried in her hands. Elena leaned on the table, shaking but alive. Daniel stood motionless in the center of the room, staring at the broken window. The police collected the evidence, took statements, then left them in silence. The flash drive was gone for analysis, the letter sealed in an evidence bag. When the last cruiser disappeared, the three of them remained in the hollow quiet of Bungalow 23. Laura finally whispered, her voice small. "I didn't know, Daniel. I swear, I didn't know he'd hurt anyone." He turned toward her slowly. "But you knew you were lying." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I thought I was saving us." Daniel shook his head. "You destroyed us." She looked up at him then, and for the first time, there was no pretense in her eyes, just regret. "If I could take it back." He cut her off gently. "You can't." Elena moved toward the door. "We should go. There's nothing left here." Daniel nodded slowly. He gave one last look around the bungalow, The empty room, the overturned chair, the shattered fragments of what had once been his trust, and then followed her out. Rain washed over them as they stepped into the night. Laura lingered on the porch, watching them go, her face ghost pale under the streetlight. Daniel didn't look back. The night swallowed the storm by dawn. The world that had felt like chaos only hours ago was now eerily quiet, as if even nature was trying to forget what had happened inside Bungalow 23. The roads glistened under the faint morning sun, and the air smelled like wet earth and endings. Daniel hadn't slept. He sat in his living room, still wearing the same rain-soaked clothes, staring at the untouched cup of coffee growing cold beside him. The clock ticked with mechanical cruelty, marking every second since everything had collapsed. Laura's voice kept replaying in his head. I thought I was saving us. Saving. The word felt like mockery. He'd spent years believing love was something that could be saved, repaired, mended like a torn shirt. But now he realized some rips are too deep, some stains too permanent. His phone buzzed. A message from Elena. Elena. They confirmed the data on the flash drive. Nathan recorded everything. Transactions, fake contracts, even conversations. The case is airtight. Daniel exhaled slowly. Good. For once, there would be consequences. He stared out the window at the empty street. Every part of him ached, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Betrayal doesn't just wound. It infects. It turns your memories against you. Every laugh, every touch, every whispered, I love you stats erupt from the inside out. And yet, beneath all that pain, a strange calm had begun to settle. Maybe it was acceptance, or exhaustion, or the quiet realization that this chapter, no matter how ugly, was finally closing. A knock at the door broke his thoughts. He hesitated, then opened it. Laura stood there. She looked nothing like the woman who had left 2 weeks ago. Her hair was damp and tangled, her eyes red from crying. She clutched a folder against her chest like a lifeline. Daniel, she whispered. He didn't invite her in. What do you want? She flinched but didn't back away. I needed to see you, to say I'm sorry. He crossed his arms. You already said that. This isn't about forgiveness, she said quickly. I know you'll never forgive me. I wouldn't either. But I found something, and I think you deserve to know. He frowned. What is it? She handed him the folder. Inside were printouts, emails between Nathan and a man named Gerald Moss. The subject lines were filled with coded terms. Shipment, account access, phase 2. I remembered Nathan used to take calls in the middle of the night, Laura said, her voice trembling. I thought it was work. But they were from a different name. A man who runs a money laundering network. Nathan wasn't just scamming people. He was moving funds offshore for others, millions. Daniel stared at the papers, disbelief giving way to cold clarity. So he's not just a con artist. He's part of something bigger. She nodded. The police only know part of it. I wanted you to have this, too. Maybe it'll help them. He met her eyes, searching for deceit, but all he saw was defeat. Why are you really giving this to me? He asked quietly. Tears welled up. Because I can't live with what I did. I thought he loved me. I thought if I helped him, he'd build something real with me. But he just used me to hurt you. I was too blind to see it until last night. Daniel's throat tightened. And now that you've seen it. She shook her head slowly. Now I just want you to know the truth, even if it changes nothing. He stared at her for a long time. Part of him wanted to slam the door, to never see her again. Another part, the part that still remembered the woman he once adored, felt something else. Pity, maybe, or the faint echo of what love used to feel like before it was poisoned. Laura, he said finally, his voice quiet but firm, you should leave the city for a while. If Nathan's part of something bigger, he won't stay silent. He'll try to get back whatever he thinks he lost. She looked frightened. You think he'll come after me? I think he'll come after anyone who can expose him, he replied. You, Elena, maybe even me. Laura nodded shakily, tears spilling again. I'm so sorry, Daniel. He didn't answer. He just closed the door gently. As he leaned against it, the silence felt heavier than any scream. By evening, Daniel met Elena again, This time at the police station. She looked drained but resolute. "They're investigating, Moss," she said. "The emails Laura brought might be enough to trace the accounts. Nathan won't walk free this time." Daniel nodded, staring at the officers moving through the corridors. "You think people like him ever regret what they've done?" Elena gave a tired smile. "No, but people like us do. That's what keeps us human." Her words lingered. As they walked out together, the city lights flickered against the wet pavement. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, fading, then gone. Daniel stopped near his car, looking up at the night sky. "Do you ever wonder if trust is just another illusion? Something we tell ourselves to survive?" Elena looked at him, her eyes softer now. "Trust isn't an illusion. It's a choice. The wrong people just teach us how valuable it really is." For the first time in days, he almost smiled. She reached out, touching his arm gently. "You'll heal, Daniel. Maybe not today, maybe not soon, but one day." He nodded slowly. "Maybe. And maybe by then, I'll know what to do with all this." Elena tilted her head. "What do you mean?" He looked back toward the police station. "Nathan thinks this ends here, but I want to make sure he never hurts anyone again." Elena's eyes narrowed slightly. "Be careful. That sounds like revenge." He met her gaze. "No, it's closure." Later that night, Daniel sat at his desk, the folder Laura had given him spread open. The rain started again outside, tapping softly on the glass. He picked up one of the printouts and noticed a handwritten note at the bottom, a signature that wasn't Nathan's. It read, "Moss account, transfer through Shell. Keep quiet. They are watching." Daniel stared at it for a long time, something dark stirring in his chest. He opened his laptop, logged into a secure email, and began typing a message to a contact Elena had mentioned earlier in the Financial Crimes Division. Subject, Evidence, Moss Connection. He attached the scans, hit send, and leaned back. Maybe justice didn't fix everything. Maybe it never would. But tonight, it was enough. Outside, the rain washed over the streets like a quiet absolution, cleansing, but never forgetting. 3 weeks passed. The investigation into Nathan Hale spread wider than Daniel or Elena had ever imagined. What began as a story of personal betrayal turned into a web of criminal connections, offshore accounts, fake companies, silent partners, and stolen identities. News channels ran the headline for days. Investment consultant arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud ring. But Nathan himself had vanished again. The police had raided his last known location, a rented warehouse outside the city, but he was gone before they arrived. The only thing they found was a broken phone, a half-burned ledger, and a bullet lodged in the concrete wall. Daniel followed the updates quietly. Every time his phone buzzed with a new alert, his pulse spiked. He wanted it to be over, wanted Nathan to be caught and gone. But deep down he knew the man wasn't finished. People like Nathan never disappeared quietly. Then, one night, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Daniel Gray. A pause, then a voice he thought he'd never hear again, calm, amused, soaked in venom. "Hello, old friend." Daniel's chest tightened. "Nathan." "Miss me?" Daniel forced his voice to stay even. "Where are you?" Nathan chuckled. "Oh, Daniel, you think I'd tell you that? You're not nearly that special." "What do you want?" "I just wanted to thank you. You see, your little report helped me more than it hurt me. My associates decided I was too much of a liability, so I made a deal. I gave them your name instead." Daniel froze. "My name?" "Relax," Nathan said smoothly. "Just a precaution. They'll come asking questions soon. After all, you're the one who handled most of the financial transfers from your joint account, weren't you? The husband who signed the forms, who approved the savings withdrawals. Technically, it's all under your name." Daniel felt the blood drain from his face. "You're bluffing." Nathan laughed quietly. "Believe what you want. But when the storm hits again, don't say I didn't warn you." Then, silence. The call ended. Daniel stood frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear, heart pounding in his throat. For a long minute, All he could hear was his own breathing and the faint hum of the refrigerator in the background. He dialed Elena immediately. She answered on the second ring, her voice alert. "Daniel." "He called me," he said. Elena's tone hardened. "Nathan." "Yes. He said he gave my name to his partners, that they'll come after me." There was a pause. "His lying. His trying to scare you." "I don't think so." He told her everything, word for word. When he finished, she was silent for a moment, then said, "If there's even a chance he's telling the truth, we need to protect you. I'll call Detective Harris and have him trace the call." But Daniel's mind wasn't on the call. His gaze had drifted to the corner of his desk, to a photo of him and Laura taken years ago at the lake, laughing under the sun. "Maybe it's not me he's after," he said quietly. "Maybe it's her." Elena caught the change in his tone. "You think he'll go after Laura?" He warned her once. He knows she has evidence. Those emails, the folder. If she still has copies, he might see her as a loose end. Elena's voice sharpened. "Then we find her before he does." By morning, Daniel was already driving again, the same road that led to Laura's apartment on the east side of the city. The sky was pale and empty, clouds heavy with the promise of another storm. He hadn't seen her since that last visit. Part of him didn't want to, but the thought of Nathan reaching her first made every nerve in his body ignite. When he reached her building, something felt wrong immediately. The door to her unit was slightly open. He stepped inside cautiously. The living room was in disarray. Papers scattered, drawers pulled open, a vase shattered on the floor. Her phone lay on the couch, still buzzing from missed calls. "Laura," he called out. No answer. Then, from the hallway, a sound. A soft thud. He followed it, heart hammering, until he reached the bedroom. Laura sat on the floor against the bed, trembling. There was blood on her sleeve, not much, just a scrape, and her eyes were wild with panic. "Daniel," she gasped. "He was here." He rushed to her side. "Nathan." She nodded rapidly. "He broke in an hour ago. Said I betrayed him. He tried to take the folder, but I told him the police already have it. He said if he ever goes down, he'll drag me down too. Then he left. He said it's not done." Daniel's mind raced. "Did he hurt you?" She shook her head. "Just pushed me. I tried to stop him. He looked different, desperate." He helped her stand. "We're going to the police." "Now?" She hesitated. "Daniel," he said something else before he left. He frowned. "What?" Her voice was barely a whisper. He said, "Bungalow 23 isn't finished yet." Daniel froze. The words echoed in his skull like a curse. He looked at her, realizing the terror in her eyes wasn't just from the break-in. It was from the knowledge that Nathan was still playing a game only he understood. Elena's words from weeks ago came back to him. Nathan's dangerous when cornered. And now, he was more cornered than ever. That evening, Daniel and Elena met again at the police station. Laura gave her statement, trembling through every word. The officers promised protection, but Daniel could see the doubt in their faces. Nathan had vanished too cleanly, left too few trails. Afterward, Daniel and Elena sat in the dim parking lot, the air thick with unease. "He's planning something," Daniel said. "Bungalow 23. He said it again." Elena nodded slowly. "Maybe it's not just a place. Maybe it's leverage. Something he still controls." Daniel's phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number. It was a video. He opened it. The screen showed Bungalow 23, the same wooden porch, the same rain-soaked yard. But the image was grainy, recorded at night. The camera panned slowly to the front door. Then a voice, distorted but unmistakably Nathan's, whispered, "You thought this was over. Meet me here tomorrow, midnight. Oh, everyone pays." Daniel felt his stomach twist. Elena leaned over, her face pale as she read the message. "He wants you to come alone." Daniel closed the phone, jaw tightening. "Then that's exactly what I'll do." "Daniel, no." He met her gaze. "If I don't, more people get hurt. This is the end where it began." Outside, thunder rolled across the horizon, a warning, or maybe a promise. Bungalow 23 waited in the dark. The rain began again just before midnight. It came in long, relentless sheets that turned the roads into silver rivers. Daniel gripped the steering wheel tight, the wipers swiping furiously as his headlights cut through the mist. The air inside the car smelled of damp fabric and nervous sweat. Every mile toward Bungalow 23 felt heavier than the last. The place had haunted him for months. The wooden porch, the flickering bulb, the memory of Laura's lies, and the echo of her voice saying she'd been at her father's. Now it waited for him again, a stage for the final act. When he reached the turnover road, the world was a blur of rain and darkness. The bungalow appeared slowly through the storm, its outline dim and crooked, windows glowing faintly from inside. Someone was already there. Daniel parked a distance away, engine still running, then stepped out into the downpour. The cold slapped him instantly, soaking his clothes in seconds. He moved slowly, every sense sharpened, every sound amplified. The crunch of gravel under his boots, the wind howling through the trees, the faint creak of the front door moving. He stepped onto the porch. "Come in." A voice called from inside. Calm, confident, familiar. Daniel pushed the door open. Nathan sat in the living room, the same one where Laura's perfume still faintly lingered on the couch. A lamp cast pale light across the room, illuminating stacks of papers and a black duffel bag on the table. He looked almost exactly as before, clean-cut, composed, except for his eyes. They burned with something wild now, something unhinged. "You came alone," Nathan said. "I'm impressed." Daniel's voice was low. "This ends tonight." Nathan smiled faintly. "Oh, it will. But not the way you think." He gestured to the duffel bag. "You want to know what's inside." Daniel didn't answer. Nathan unzipped it slowly. Inside were bundles of cash, passports, a gun, and a set of printed photographs. He slid one toward Daniel. It showed Daniel and Laura together, at their house, years ago, laughing at the dining table. "You had a good thing," Nathan said. "A beautiful wife, a stable job, a boring life. And yet, somehow, you think you're the victim here." Daniel's eyes hardened. "She lied. You used her." Nathan chuckled softly. "Everyone lies. I just gave her a reason to stop pretending." He leaned back, studying Daniel. "She said you never listened to her anymore, that you spent your evenings buried in spreadsheets, that you forgot how to look at her. I didn't have to steal her. Daniel, you gave her away." The words hit like a punch. Daniel's jaw clenched. "You destroyed my family." "No," Nathan said evenly. "I exposed the cracks that were already there." For a moment, only the rain filled the silence, pounding against the roof, dripping through the leaks in the eaves. Daniel took a slow breath. "What do you want from me?" Nathan smiled thinly. "A trade. You stay quiet. You tell the police I coerced you both, that you knew nothing about the money. In return, I disappear, and so does the evidence tying you to the transfers. We both walk away." Daniel stared at him, the weight of the moment pressing on his chest. Every fiber of him screamed not to give this man anything. But he also knew Nathan was right about one thing. The transfers were under his name. If Nathan released those documents, Daniel's life would crumble again. He took a step forward. "And if I refuse?" Nathan tilted his head. "Then I take everything. The money, your freedom, maybe even what's left of your reputation." Daniel looked at the gun on the table. "You really think I'm afraid of you?" Nathan smiled. "No, I think you're afraid of being alone." He reached for the gun. Before he could grab it, the door burst open behind them. "Police! Drop it!" Elena's voice cut through the storm. Officers flooded in behind her, weapons raised. Nathan froze, eyes flicking from the gun to Daniel to the open door. "How touching," Nathan said quietly. "You brought an audience." Daniel didn't move. "It's over." Nathan looked at him for a long, terrible second, then laughed softly. "You never learn. You can't kill a ghost." He reached for the gun anyway. A single shot rang out. The echo thundered through the bungalow. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Nathan staggered, his expression twisting in disbelief as he collapsed to the floor. Elena's gun smoked faintly in her hand. Officers swarmed him, but it was over before they reached him. Nathan Hale, conman, manipulator, the man who had torn Daniel's world apart, was finally still. Daniel exhaled, every muscle shaking. He didn't even realize he'd been holding his breath. Elena approached carefully. "You okay?" He nodded faintly, though the word okay felt foreign. The adrenaline began to fade, replaced by a hollow ache in his chest. He looked around, at the room that had held so many ghosts, at the rain leaking through the roof, at the faint scent of betrayal that never really left. "It's strange," he murmured. "Even now, I don't know if I hate him or pity him." Elena's voice softened. "Maybe both." They walked outside together. The rain had eased to a drizzle, the air cool and clean. Red and blue lights pulsed across the wet road. Daniel stood at the edge of the porch, staring out at the darkness. "I thought if he was gone, the pain would go too," he said. "But it's still here." Elena glanced at him. "Pain doesn't vanish when justice comes. It just stops growing." He nodded slowly. From the road, an officer called out that the scene was secure. The night was ending. Finally, as Daniel turned to leave, his eyes fell on something near the porch step, a single folded note, soaked but still legible. He picked it up, opened it carefully. The handwriting was unmistakably Laura's. "I'm sorry. I didn't know how to undo what I started. I thought loving him made me alive again, but it only killed the parts of me that loved you. Please forgive me, if not for what I did, then for what I couldn't fix." Daniel stood motionless, reading it again, the words blurring with the rain. Elena watched him quietly, then asked, "What will you do now?" He folded the note and slipped it into his pocket. "Start over, this time with nothing to hide." Weeks later, Bungalow 23 was boarded up and sealed by the authorities. The locals said they still saw lights flickering there at night, probably a trick of the rain or the wind through the broken shutters. But Daniel never went back. He moved to a small house near the coast, started a new job in a quiet accounting firm, and spent his mornings watching the sunrise instead of the storm. Some nights, when the wind howled like it did that night, he still thought of Laura, of the woman who'd lied to him yet once loved him in her own fractured way. He'd never fully hate her. Maybe that was the cruelest part of it all. Because forgiveness, he realized, was not about the person who hurt you. It was about freeing yourself from the ruins they left behind. And somewhere deep inside, as the waves crashed beyond his window, Daniel Gray finally let go.